Welcome to today's live tapping. I am Tina BQ Tran and I am a certified Energy Psychology Practitioner. Whether you join me live today or you play this later on replay, thank you for joining me. Today we are going to use emotional freedom techniques to address the anxiety that some of us feel going back to normal, quote unquote, as people get vaccinated against COVID-19 and things have gone back to what was before COVID. For some people, it's actually quite difficult. They feel anxious, very anxious in fact, and that's the experience I have had with a few people as of late, because they themselves have had COVID and it has rendered them powerless. It rendered them inert. It rendered them unable to take care of themselves, and some of those people were quite independent, were quite self-sufficient. But when they got COVID though, they become like a baby, unable to take care of themselves. They were extremely scared. They couldn't do a thing to help themselves, and so the reason they felt powerless, unable to care for themselves, and they thought they were going to die without being able to see anyone. And although their physical health has recovered, their mental and emotional health has not, despite all of their efforts. This invisible, obviously it's invisible because it's a feeling, but this anxiety that keep nagging them without them even realizing, that's what is bothering them, and that's what holding them from moving forward. And now that they have to go back to the office physically, they are even more scared because they have gone through such a bad experience, suffering from the effects of COVID, that they don't want to be sick again. And we know from science that even vaccinated, we may still get sick, although the vaccines do help with lessening the effect, the negative effect. But that doesn't mean that we won't get sick again. We do have a chance of survival if we get vaccinated, but it doesn't mean that we might not get sick again. I mean, it's just like the flu, right? We get vaccinated, the regular flu, I mean, we get vaccinated and we may still get sick. It's just that the intensity of the disease is much less. And anyhow, so going back to the anxiety that is left behind by being sick from COVID. And so our physical health recovered, but not our mental or emotional health. And some of the people that I have worked with, they intensify their anxiety by thinking about how anxious they are. And so they get caught in a vicious circle of feeling anxious and then thinking about the anxiety, and that intensifies the anxiety, and that intensified anxiety goes back and to feed their thinking again, and so it keeps going. And what for some of those people is that it affects their daily functioning. It occupies, that anxiety occupies a good chunk of their brain space. And so they are unable to think of other things that they can do to get themselves to interrupt that vicious circle. So today we are going to use EFT to hopefully decrease the intensity of the anxiety and possibly create a safe space to be with it instead of fighting it, because that's part of the issue as well. People who keep trying to find ways to fight this anxiety, and by doing so they pay attention to the anxiety and they make it bigger. They intensify the anxiety instead of diminishing it. So if you're suffering from anxiety at the thought of going back to normal as in pre-COVID, gauge your intensity between 1 and 10 and feel it in your body. Take a moment, close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths and pinpoint where you have this anxiety in your body. For most people, for many people I should say, it's usually in their chest, around their heart area, or on their shoulders. It could also be on the upper part of their head. Wherever you feel it, make a note of it, make a note of the intensity, and let's start. So I'm going to use the basic recipe, and I'm going to assume that you know the flow. Okay. Even though the thought of going back to normal makes me feel anxious, I choose to honor this anxiety, and I deeply and completely accept myself anyway. Even though thinking about going back to the office or to group gathering makes me feel anxious because I'm afraid I may get sick again, I deeply and completely accept myself exactly where I am, along with how I feel. One last time. Even though I am afraid of group gathering and going back to normal, as in before COVID, there is a part of me that is very afraid that I may get sick again, that I may feel powerless again, and that I may die. I choose to honor how I feel, and I deeply and completely accept myself exactly where I am. On the top of the head, this anxiety on the eyebrows, this thought of going back to the office makes me feel anxious. On the side of the eyes, I feel anxious going back to social group gathering. Under the eyes, I'm afraid there are people who are not vaccinated and that I may get sick again. Under the eyes, I'm afraid that even if I gather with people who are all vaccinated, I may still get sick because there is a small chance of that. Under chin, going back to a crowded space and encountering the possibility of being sick again makes me feel very anxious. Under collarbone, this anxiety under the arm. I acknowledge this anxiety on the side of the thumb. This is how I feel right here, right now. On the side of the index finger. I don't know whether I will be able to release this anxiety from my body on the middle finger. But in this very moment, I choose to honor how I feel. On the side of the baby finger, I choose to stop resisting this anxiety. In the back of the hand, on the gamut point, I choose to allow myself to be with this anxiety without further judgment or resistance. Back to the top of the head. This anxiety on the eyebrows. This is how I feel right here, right now. On the side of the eyes. And so I choose to acknowledge this is how I feel. Under the eyes, I choose to honor my emotions. Under the eyes, I choose to surrender to it. On the chin, I choose to allow me to feel all of it. On the collarbone, and I also choose to remind my body that it is okay to feel this anxiety, even if it's scary to feel it. Under the arm. Because the truth is, right here, right now, I'm actually safe. On the side of the thumb, it's actually safe for me to feel this anxiety. On the side of the index finger, it's actually safe for me, both physically and emotionally, to be with this anxiety without resistance, without fighting, without being afraid of it. On the side of the middle finger, it's okay, I feel anxious. On the baby finger, I recognize this is how my body or my brain is trying to make me aware that I need to be cautious. On the back of the hand and the gamut point, to be cautious in group setting, to be cautious going back to the office, to be cautious going back to pre-COVID situations. To the top of the head, there are measures I can take to protect myself. On the eyebrows, no, there is no guarantee that I won't get sick again. On the side of the eyes, but as long as I take appropriate measures to protect myself under the eyes and be okay with getting sick again, just like I may get sick from the flu under the nose, then I don't spend my energy fighting this anxiety on the chin, because there are situations that are beyond my control. On the collarbone, I choose to do what I can do to protect me from getting sick again. Under the arm, and knowing that there's still a small chance that I will be sick again, or I may be sick again, because it's a 50-50 situation. We don't really know. Okay, so that just to allow ourselves to let go of the resistance against the anxiety, to allow ourselves to be okay with feeling anxious, to feel afraid, to go back to the norms that used to be before COVID, and also to remind ourselves that we are actually safe, even though we have this anxiety. Okay, and now let's do another round to allow ourselves to create a space in which we feel emotionally or mentally safe, to go back to normal as in pre-COVID, because whether we want it or not, that's where things are heading. And it's time for us to stop fighting what is, and instead to be okay with going back and possibly release this anxiety from our body, so that we can gain back our energy and our brain space to find another way to occupy our emotions and our thoughts. Okay, so again, on the side eye, even though I still feel this anxiety, I choose to know that I do have options, and that I'm actually safe, and I'm okay with this anxiety. And I deeply and completely accept myself exactly where I am. One more time. Even though this anxiety is still with me, I choose to acknowledge that right here, right now, my body is not ready to let it go completely yet. But it is possible for me to let it go, so that I can move forward peacefully in my life. One last time. Even though this anxiety hasn't disappeared completely from my body and my mind, I choose to create a safe space for me to be in, so that eventually my body will feel completely safe to let this anxiety go. And I deeply and completely accept myself for doing this for my health. Right? On the top of the head. It's okay that this anxiety hasn't disappeared completely from my body. On the eyebrows. For now, I think I will give it a companion on the side of the eyes. I choose to bring in compassion for myself. I choose to give this anxiety compassion as companion under the nose, so that I can create a safe space for me on the chin. Accepting this anxiety is part of being compassionate for me on the collarbone. I choose to be okay with this anxiety. Under the arm, I choose to be compassionate towards myself. On the side eyes, I choose to take back my power. On the side of the index finger, I choose to know that right here, right now, I am actually safe. On the middle finger, if I get sick again, I will deal with it when it happens. On the baby finger, as for now, I choose to do something that helps me to feel at ease in public or back to the office, the back of the hand. I choose to direct my attention towards something that is more constructive. Back to the top of the head. I can pick up a hobby, for example, on the eyebrows. I can schedule an activity that I enjoy so that my mind has something to be occupied with. On the side eye. That way, my thought won't go back to that anxiety, and instead, it will be busy with the hobby or the activity that I choose. Under the eyes. Choosing to surround myself with compassion and love and acceptance. Under the nose. Choosing to fill myself with peace and tranquility. Under the chin. Choosing to surround me with love, with acceptance and lights. On the collarbone. Reminding myself that I am okay, that I am safe. And it's okay to let go of this anxiety. And under the arm. It is safe for me to let go of this anxiety. And so it is. All right. Thank you for joining me. And I will see you next week. Bye now.